Hey, this is OXDF, and today we're looking at the advent of code 2015, day 21, RPG Simulator 20XX, and we're doing it in Rust. We're learning Rust. Let's go ahead and take a look at the challenge. There's a lot of story here, but basically the main thing is the player and the boss are going to take turns attacking. The player always goes first, and each attack reduces hit points by at least one. The first character at or below 0 loses. And so we just need a few rules to calculate the damage done each turn. Each character, you and the enemy, are going to have a hit points, a damage, and an armor score. And so basically, when we'll come down here to the very bottom, the boss's stats are going to be our puzzle input, and our stats are going to be calculated based on some gold we spent. But basically, when I attack, my damage minus the boss's armor, so in this case, 5 and 2 becomes 3. I do 3 damage to the boss. Then the boss attacks me. His damage is 7. My armor is 5, so I lose 2 damage. And it just alternates back and forth like that until one of us reaches 0 or lower. To figure out my attack, my damage, and armor scores, I'm going to purchase one weapon, 0 or 1 armors, and 0, 1, or 2 rings. The 2 rings cannot be the same. The challenge for me is, what is the least amount of gold I can spend and still win the fight? So let's jump over to VS Code, and I'll start with my GenDay script here for day 21. And I went over this in the introductory video for this series, but the short version is it pulled my input.txt here, and it also creates a stub main.rust for me to start working off. So the first thing we're going to want to do is make some objects. And so we can make like a struct character, and a character is going to have hit points. That'll be a U size. It's going to have a damage score or rating. That'll be a U size. It's going to have an armor rating. I don't know why I want to tab that. That's going to be a U size. It's going to have a cost, kind of. Like the boss certainly isn't going to have a cost, but I'm just going to keep this here so that I can use it because it'll be handy down the road when I start calculating my scores as a character. And the other one I'll use is a struct. I'll call it like an item. And an item is going to have a name, it's a string. It's going to have a cost, that's a U size. It's going to have a damage score, that's a U size as well. And it's going to have an armor, and that's a U size. So I've got these two structs, or structs, there we go, that I can use to define my game. And so let's go ahead and do that now. I'm actually in an unusual, I guess this challenge, a lot of times parsing the data is part of the challenge. When our data is just as simple as this, it feels kind of unnecessary. So what I'm going to do is just hard code this into my challenge. I could write a parser for this, I guess, but I'm going to say let boss equals character, and we'll paste this here. Get rid of this, and it'll become hit points 109, damage 8, armor 2, and cost doesn't matter, but we'll make it 0. So now we have created our boss. The next thing we need to do is we need to get all of these weapons items in here as well. And again, I could save this in a file and parse it somehow, but I'm just going to hard code it in. But the way I'm going to hard code it in, I'm just going to open up a terminal window and run vim, because that's where I'm the most comfortable doing this. So let's make this a little bit bigger, paste this in. So I'm going to try to explain what I'm doing as I type it. So right now I'm not in insert mode, and I will just do 2dd to delete the two lines. And again here, 2dd, and at the very top, dd. Next thing I want to do is get rid of all the repeated spaces, because they just are going to screw up my reorganizing of this. So I'm going to do colon to drop into commands here, and then I'll do %s for substitute, space, backslash plus, so one or more spaces. I'm going to replace that with a space, and I'm going to do that globally. And that's going to work like that. Now I'm going to use macros, and Vim macros are super handy for this kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push Q to start recording a macro, and I'm going to push Q. Next thing I need to do is give it a name, so I'll push Q again to give it a name, and now you can see at the bottom it says recording Q. Now it's going to be recording everything I do. So I'm going to push I to go to insert. I'll add 8 spaces and I'll do item like this. And now it's going to be a name like that. And so now I've got all my lines are going to start that way. Now what I want to do is jump ahead to this space right here. But I want to jump in such a way that down here, when I do the same jump, I jump to the space between the 1 and the 25, not this first space. So I'm going to do escape to exit insert mode, / to search, space, and then \D to search for a space and then a digit. You can see where it's matching here. And then I'll hit enter. And now you can see the blinking cursor is right there after dagger. So I'll hit I for insert, close my quote, do to string here because I need that. Now I can do cost like that. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'll hit escape to leave insert mode, and I'll do / space to go to the next space. Now I'm at the space between cost and 8. I actually want the next one, so I'll hit N. And that's where I want to be. So I'll hit I for insert, comma, damage, colon, escape to leave, / space, enter, wrong one. So I'll push N for next, I for insert, put my comma, and the last one is armor, colon. I'll hit the end button to go to the end of the line. I for insert, oh, already inserted, so I can delete that I, space, close the thing and put a comma at the end. And now I just want to push the down arrow and then the home key to go to the front of the line, escape to get out of insert mode, and Q to stop recording. So now I've got a macro that does all that. So if I push the @ sign, so like Shift 2 on the US keyboard at least, and then Q, it runs that exact same macro again. And even cooler, I can do like 5 @ Q, and it runs it 5 times. And so now it looks like if I do 9 @ Q, I've got all my stuff done. So I'll grab all of this, copy it, and come back to VS Code. And now I can do let weapons equals, and I can go to the front of the line and paste that right in. And now not all of those are weapons, but let's get rid of the ones here. So chainmail, leather, right there. There's my weapons. Semicolon that. I can do let armors equals, and go to the next line, paste that in. And grab this last one here, grab my rings, and that, and I can do let rings equal, paste that in, and close that. Now there's one other thing I have to do. I don't have to take an armor. I can use none as an armor. So I'm actually just going to add that as an item. I'll say name none dot to string, comma cost 0. Damage 0, armor 0, and so effectively I've got that's the none option, right? And I'll grab this because I can also have that same option for rings right here, and I think that's good. I think I got everything. So it's complaining that I haven't used these things yet, but I've got them all read in. So that's what we're looking for. The next thing we can do before we start processing our data and running through it is I'm going to need a couple functions. So for one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get combinations of these different weapons, armor, rings, and I'm going to want to build a character out of them. So let's do a impl character, and we can do fn new. So our new function will take a w item, a item, r1 item. Oops, that should be a and R2 item, and it's going to take hit points. We'll call it HP, and that's a U size. U size. And it's going to return self, a character. And so we'll say that it returns a self, and let's see, does that work? The self on hit points is going to be HP. The damage is going to be w.damage plus a.damage plus r1.damage plus r2.damage. And the same thing is going to be the case for armor. So we'll do a.armor plus w.armor. I guess the orders, I don't like that order. Let's fix this. Let's see, so w.armor plus a.armor plus r1.armor plus r2.armor. Okay, and the cost is going to be w.cost. I'm sure there's probably a way to sum all these up, but this is not that hard. Plus r2.cost. So now I've managed to build myself a character from a set of items. That's cool. The other thing I'm going to want is a function that says like who wins in a fight. So I'm going to say defeats. That's what I'm going to call it. And that's going to take self, and it's going to take boss, which is also a character, and it's going to return a bool. Let's make it, here we go. And so what we can do, if we think about how these fights are going to be, if I know how much damage I take away per turn, and I know how much damage the boss takes away per turn, and I know the starting hit points for each, I can basically calculate the number of turns it's going to take me to win, and the number of turns it's going to take for the boss to win. And if my number of turns is less than or equal to the boss, I win. So we'll say, let my turns to win equal, and we'll do something there. And then we can say, let boss turns to win equals something there. And I can then say, we can just return my turns to win less than or equal to boss turns to win. And that's a bool. So now the one thing we got to do is we got to figure out how to calculate these. I'm going to use a couple little functions here. And they're not actually going to be part of the character object. They're just going to be some helper functions. For one, I need the ability to do a division. Well, actually, let's do the other one first. First, I need the way to calc damage. So let's say, you'd think we could just start with like, can we just do a subtraction? But it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. It's just nice. It'll be just nice to have this in a function. And the other thing we need is an armor. Whoop, not that. A RMOR. That's a U size. And we're going to return a U size. And so the real question here is, if damage is greater than armor, then we're going to return damage minus armor. That's the easy case, right? Because it says we always return at least 1. So if damage is equal to armor, we'd get a 0 there, but we don't want a 0 there. If damage is less than armor, we definitely don't want a negative. So we're going to do else 1. So that way we are returning this. I wonder if we can also, I'm going to do this experiment for a second. Can we just also do like, is there like a min? I wonder if this will work if we do damage minus armor. I guess we want max, comma 1. Does that yell? Use standard compare min. What if I just do compare max? That works. Actually, we'll do that then. That'll look nice. So that will calculate our damage. The other little tiny helper function we're going to want is, I'm going to call it like div seal. And the reason is, so we're going to take, like, let's say the boss has 10 and I do 3 per turn. Well, it's going to take me 4 turns, right? It's going to take down to 7, down to 4, down to 1, down to 0. That's 4 turns. So what I wanted, but if it was 9, I would do down to 6, down to 3, down to 0, 3 turns. So I want to do a divide by the number, but then any round up. So if it's 3.0, stay. If it's 3.0001, round up. So we're going to do A U size, B U size, and we're going to return a U size. And this is simply going to look like A over B plus U size from, and then we'll do A mod B is not equal 0. So if A mod B equals 0, this will be 0, and we'll just have A over B. So if they evenly divide, we just get the division. But otherwise, we're going to add 1. And that's it. So with those, we can now calculate the defeat stuff. So we're going to say number of turns to win is going to be div seal, and we're going to divide. For me to win, it's going to be the boss hit points divided by what do I call it? Calc damage, and the damage is going to be self.damage. Let's push this down here. Self.damage, and the armor is going to be boss.armor. And then we're going to do the same thing here, except for we're going to go the opposite way. Equals div seal. And this one's going to be self.hitPoints. And the B is going to be calc damage on, so this would be boss.damage and self.armor. And there we go. I think we've got a defeats function looking pretty solid. So now that we have that, I think we can jump into the meat of the challenge here. How do we find the cheapest win? And so what we're going to do is come all the way down here under our definitions. We're going to say, let's just say let x equals, and we're going to use this iproduct. It's a macro, actually. Let me find, I actually have the documentation for this. So this is part of Itertools, and if you can see here, here, for example, it takes iproduct on 0 to 4, 0 to 4, 0 to 4, and what it's going to do is it's going to return all the combinations, the product of these vectors, in a tuple, a three-way tuple. So it'll say 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, and so on, count all the way up until I get to 3, 3, 3. So that's exactly what we want to do here. So back here, we're going to need to import this. So we're going to use Itertools iproduct, like that. And we're going to definitely need to put that into our cargo.toml. Itertools equals, very lazily, we'll import anything. Don't need that, we don't need that. And I think we're okay here. Do we have any errors? No, we are not doing a product yet. Okay, so now we need to say, what are we passing into the product? And we're going to pass in weapons, armors, rings, and rings. Just like that. Let's save that and see what it looks like. Now it's throwing an error. Let's see, what do we have here? Cargo run release. See what we get. So we're getting an issue here with ownership. You can see the trait clone is not implemented, blah, blah, blah. And this is actually a trick I've picked up from my YouTube comments. Thank you to whoever put that in there. I don't remember what it was several days ago. Instead of passing in these objects, which is then going to require the ownership to change, I'm going to have this new function, where is it here? Take a pointer to an item, a pointer to an item, a pointer to an item, and a pointer to an item. And now it doesn't actually need ownership for it. And it can't change it, but it doesn't need to change it. We're just reading some stuff off of it. So here, all the way here, we can now make this pointer to weapons, pointer to armor, pointer to rings, pointer to that. And now, I guess I didn't need to change my new one yet, but I can, when I make my change there, I can do the same. This is going to make my life easier all the way through. So I've got this product, and right now you can see I've got a cons tuples product concept. So I'm getting an iterator of some kind, right? The first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to want to filter, because we have a couple cases that are going to be not quite right. And so that filter is going to take in a tuple, and that tuple is going to have a weapon, which I don't care about at the moment, an armor, which I don't care about at the moment. I'm just going to have an R1 and an R2. And so we need a function for that. And we're going to say, we're going to return a Boolean. And if R1 dot name is equal, I guess we want to say is not equal to R2 dot name. Because if we have the same ring, we've broken the rules here. Except there's one case, and that is if R1 dot name, and therefore also R2 dot name, is equal to none, because we are allowed to have both of them be none, then we're okay. So let's make this a toString. I think we're good there. Let's see, what do we mess up? Our parentheses are off there. Let's see. I think we're good. So now we have an iterator over items of 4 items. Awesome. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to map that. And we're going to take our iterator, and then we're going to have a very similar map, except for this time we actually want W, A, R1, and R2. And this time we're going to take each of those combinations and turn it into a character. So we're going to say character, new, and I already made the change. I meant to talk about this here, but now I'll say pointer to W, pointer to A, pointer to R1, pointer to R2, and oh, and I need hit points. And my hit points, it says in the challenge, are always 100. And so that's the end. Now I've mapped that. And now it's kind of cool. You can see I've got a map of, ooh, that's a mess. Let's see. I thought it was going to show me a map of tuples. What's breaking? Let's run this and see. So I'm not, oh, I didn't, expected a closure that takes 4 as a, oh, I didn't put it, I need to pass these as a, it takes a single tuple, not 4. This makes it look like it takes 4 items, but it really takes 1 item that is a tuple. There we go. That's expected. So now I have an iterator over characters. So sweet. I've made myself a list of all possible characters. Let's filter those characters. So now we need to filter again. And this time we're going to just take an f, a character, and we'll say we want f dot defeats boss, just like that. We want only ones where f defeats the boss. And we still have an iterator of characters. So now let's take this and we'll say, oops, I didn't mean to get that. We can say dot min by, and so it said I want the minimum, and I'm going to compare for any 2 objects. I'll compare A and B. I want to do A dot cost dot compare B dot cost, like that. And I need to close min by, and do I need to borrow here? Yes. So, and I probably want to do the same thing here. Where's my defeats? Let's make this a pointer to a boss, and that should be nice. So now I've got an option on a character. Let's unwrap that. We don't need the option. I guess hypothetically there could be no minimum, but that'll only be if it's empty. So then we really screwed up. Anyway, we want to fail. So now we got a character back. We got 1 character, and it's gonna be the cheapest character. So we'll call this the cheapest win. And now, what do we want to know for part 1? What is the cost? So we can do cheapest win dot cost. We can save. We can run. We get 111, which is the correct answer. Back here, 111, correct answer. So, turns out the shopkeeper is working with the boss and can persuade you to buy whatever he wants. The other rules still apply. What's the most amount of gold that the shopkeeper can get you to spend and still lose the fight? So this is actually pretty simple. We're just going to come over here and we're going to basically grab this whole chain, and we're going to change a couple. We're going to copy it and just change a couple things. So we'll say no longer is it cheapest win, expensive loss. We're still going to do the items. We're still going to worry about the rings being right. We're still going to map them into characters. Now we're going to say doesn't defeat the boss. And now we want max by. And that's it, I think. Expensive loss dot cost. And we run. And we get 296. That's not right. So let's see where our logic went wrong. So I think, so the place I'm going to look next to troubleshoot this is actually in this calc damage function. And what we're going to do is we're going to be very loud for a second. And we're going to just do print line, and we will do just this right here. Let's see. So we were going to want that. Let's see, damage. We want armor, and we want to know what the thing is here. So we'll do damage, armor, and the result like that. And it's going to print a ton, but I want to just sort of evaluate it. And that's what I was afraid of. We're getting some cases where we're overflowing because we're subtracting a U size from a, we're subtracting, I thought I'd be clever, and kind of in the video I was like, oh, and if we can just use a max, but because I'm doing these as U sizes, when they are different, they overflow. And that's not what I need. I wonder if I could fix this by saying as I size. Can I cast this here? No, it's not. So there's probably a way to do this to convert these, but I'm going to go for a real my old-fashioned way, which is to say if damage is greater than armor, damage minus armor, else 1. And now if we rerun this, we get the right answer, 188. So that's a good lesson. And again, you got to think about your types, and you got to think about when you're doing math, especially subtracting. You know, you don't want to roll over like that. So that's the challenge. It was actually a relatively easy day for this late in the year. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.